Good morning. This is Andy, your ordinand deacon, just in case any of you didn't recognise me after I lost a fight with the beard trimmer. This Saturday I'm being professed into the Third Order of the Society of St Francis, which is something I've been working towards for a number of years now. And David asked me if I would speak a little bit about the order, what it is I'm doing, and obviously who is St Francis. So if we start with St Francis, he was born around 1181 in Assisi in Italy. He was the son of a wealthy cloth merchant. He had a very good early life, lots of money, friends, schooling, and he grew up to be quite a party animal. He would go out and spend lots of money, splash his cash. He had quite the reputation for having a good time, let's put it that way. When around 1205, he had a series of various conversion experiences, which led him to renounce money, embrace poverty, and basically just live a life focused entirely on the gospel message. He founded the First Order, which was the Friars, mainly by accident. He never intended to start an order, but when people saw the simplicity and the joy of the life he was living, lots of people flocked to live alongside him. Then around 1212, a lady called Clare, obviously now St. Clare, she joined as well, but being a lady, she was sent off to an abbey in Perugia, where she formed a new order of Franciscans called the Poor Ladies, now known as the Poor Clares, and they were the second order of the Franciscans. Then in 1221, or thereabouts, St. Francis instituted something called the Third Order, which was an order specifically for those people, lay and clergy, who couldn't commit to the vows of an enclosed life or the vows of poverty and chastity as a full friar would have. So it was aimed at priests, at professionals, at married people, so that they could live their life in a means and with a method that would fit with the Franciscan ethos. So why St. Francis? Well, in St. Francis, we have a model of how to live a gospel-focused life. Obviously, the main focus for Franciscan is Jesus, is God, as it should be. But we think with St. Francis and the early Franciscans, we have a really good example of how to take a flawed human life and apply the gospel message to it in a way which honours the gospel and honours Jesus' sacrifice and methods and teachings. But why St. Francis for me personally? Well, it started with the stained glass windows in the church at Dwgafolchi at St. Gwynan's. And I was sat in the congregation one day looking at all the windows of all the Welsh saints, thinking, I don't know any of the stories. I don't know anything about a single one of them. So I went home and I started learning about the Welsh saints and saints in general. And when I came to St. Francis, something absolutely struck me. And I think it was, for the first time, I'd come across somebody who understood or had a worldview of the gospel which matched the one which I had so closely. And I was just enthralled with him, with his life, with his experiences, just with everything. It seemed to me a very peaceful and calm and resilient way to be a Christian in the medieval world, but just as much today in the modern world. So the Third Order Society of St. Francis, is the Anglican expression of this Third Order. The order has three aims. The first aim is to make our Lord Jesus Christ and God known and loved everywhere. So it's primarily a preaching order. It's about spreading the gospel message. It's to spread the spirit of love and harmony, and it's to live simply. We do this through three ways of service. Through prayer, where we seek to live in an atmosphere of prayer, with the heart of which always being in the Eucharist. With study, that's the study of scriptures, both secular and obviously the religious scriptures, and to give a better understanding of the church and the Christian principles through this learning. And then through work, in which we find ways of fulfilling the three aims of the order in work and in our lives. So what does it mean that I'm definitely going to be professed this Saturday? Well, I've been a novice for 3 years. I've taken a basic rule of life, which is a vow to live simply and to pray daily, and well, there's lots of things on it, but it's quite a personal rule of life. But on the 10th, when I become a professed member of the order, that temporary practice rule, as it were, will become permanent and a lifelong rule. It could seem a little bit dour, perhaps, the idea of taking on a rule for life, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a freedom and as a joy in the same way that perhaps the psalmist would rejoice in God's statutes. For example, in Psalm 119, if we look back at that psalm, the potential restrictions of God's statutes and the law which bound the people in those times wasn't seen by the psalmist as a source of difficulty or a source of restriction. It was seen as a freedom to express oneself fully in the reality of God. And that's what I feel and see with the vows I'll be taking on Saturday to become a professed member of the Third Order. So that's it in a nutshell. Obviously, I've only got a few minutes to talk to you today, but if there's one thing which I could say, which I'd like people to take away, would be to look up the saints. Not just St. Francis and St. Clare, or any of the Franciscans, but any saints. Whichever saints take your fancy, whichever saints catch your eye. You know, obviously with Jesus and with God, we have everything we need for salvation and for long, happy lives. But it can be hard to apply some of those learnings to our messy everyday lives. But the saints are people who have done that in their own lives successfully, or not so successfully, but they've certainly tried. And there's a lot of wisdom and there's a lot of teaching which we can take from their lives and apply to our own today. So there we are. Have a nice day. Bye.